But speaking of the journey so far, under the leadership of His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, I'm a big fan of history is a great predictor of the future. You can't fake a track record, right? You can look in the forward, but in terms of look backward, let's look at the digital age. I remember His Excellency Mohammed Al-Jada'an, 7 or 6 years ago, brought Larry Fink to His Royal Highness. There was a BlackRock event, and Larry Fink said to His Royal Highness, when am I going to see the Microsofts, the Googles, the Amazon clouds up and running in the kingdom? His Royal Highness formed a Supreme Committee for Cloud, which His Excellency gave me a hard time with, but he pushed it through in terms of incentives and adoption. Fast forward, and these are numbers attested by the World Economic Forum and by everybody, from shy of 80 megawatts to more than 400 megawatts right now up and running. And you spoke about the diffusion of these technologies and the correlation with GDP growth. Fast forward, we have grown as a digital economy to $140 billion, fueling more than 50% of the growth in all of MENA, fueling more than 50%, 8 unicorns and counting in terms of the number of unicorns, and creating the largest tech and digital market for the region. And that's a testimony that if we double down on talent, technology, with trust, we're able to achieve huge strides. And it's no wonder that the World Economic Forum, for 2 years consecutively, called out the kingdom as the #1 digital riser in terms of adoption and acceleration of the digital age. We intend to do the same thing with the intelligence age under the leadership of His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman and in partnership with my colleagues. Under the AI age, His Royal Highness has 3 pillars. First, we energize 20% of the energy mix globally. So it's only natural that we're going to shift from just energizing industries to energizing the intelligence age with tokens. Last year, we clocked 11 cents per million input-output token. And in terms of adoption, because it's not only about the acceleration, but it's the adoption, I would argue we're not talking about pilots here. We're talking about real use cases. His Excellency Al-Jada'an was kind enough to allow me to poach His Excellency Soyan, but I promised him this is the last poaching I'm doing. Soyan, under the leadership of His Excellency Al-Jada'an, have developed a procure-to-pay platform that is global and remarkable. It cut it down to payments from 180 days to 45 days and even lower. And today, within the agentic era, this is a real use case. The Ministry of Finance are using it, which I would argue His Excellency and his team is one of the most remarkable digital success stories, and now in the intelligence age success stories. It used to take 8 steps to verify an invoice. Today, they have employed a very simple region-based convolutional neural network, which is basically a computer vision system to be able to match a bill of material with their systems, cut down 8 steps with an agentic workforce, and be able to free up more than thousands, close to 9,000 financial controllers to work on higher value pools within the Ministry of Finance. In terms of adoption in healthcare, we have freed up our radiologists to be able to look at more cases. Similarly, to detect whether a tumor is malignant or benign, they are using AI in a machine learning implementation. And last but not least, we have the largest industrial LLM powered by Aramco, and Aramco, hands down, one of the biggest buyers and adopters in the tech and digital age, and now in the intelligent age, where Amin and Nasser in Davos showcased to the world, fully audited through third party, creating close to $2 to $3 billion of value realized from their bottom line and the lowest uplift cost and carbon intensity. And that's a clear message to the world that if you want to win in the AI race, you need 3 things. You need compute, you need capital, and you need customers. And if you want to scale, the kingdom is your place to scale.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for, I think, an inspiring vision. Brad, you visit the world and you see countries every day. What do you think stand out of Saudi Arabia approach to AI?
Well, I think one of the most exciting things that excites me is that reference to customers. Not surprisingly, if you're in the tech sector and you're building all of this, you build it so people can use it.
Indeed.
And that's why this week's milestones are so important. I do, as an aside, want to really personally thank you, Your Excellency, because we've been talking and working together not just for months, but for years. And no problem has ever been too big. No challenge has ever been too small. And we've always appreciated it. I personally have always appreciated your advice. And I'll say your exhortations. Go jump higher, run faster. And I think that's been good for us to hear. But one of the reasons I refer to customers is I think right now, really everywhere in the world, people are very focused on the infrastructure layer and the model layer, call that the platform layer. And if you read every day in the press about AI as a technology, that's probably where you see 80% or more of the stories. But it's really the applications layer. Your reference to radiology, I think, is a fantastic one, because that is a great example of an application that people are using AI to make faster and more accurate diagnoses for patients. So it's delivering real benefits. And along the way, as you point out, it's making the people in that field, the radiologists themselves, more productive. Absolutely. It's also actually, interestingly, I think, eliminating some of the so-called toil, just trying to look at, say, an image, and instead, AI can take the first assessment of an image, and then it can provide a report, and then a radiologist can analyze it. But the reason I choose that is that it's ultimately adoption at the applications layer across every sector of the economy that will make the biggest difference. And let's be honest, for those of us who build the infrastructure or the models, unless there are these applications, we're just basically building things for ourselves, and that's not the point of this in the first place. So bringing this back to the kingdom, it is the opportunities that we see, I'll say, across the government, where there are so many initiatives underway to utilize AI to improve the way the government works, but across the economy. And as you put it, if you want to build the future, see these kinds of opportunities, this is an extraordinary place to be.
Thanks, Brad. Look, this is reassuring. Honestly, we see this every day. The opportunity in the kingdom, the commitment of the leadership with His Excellency has been exceptional. And we think the next 10 years, magic will happen in this place. Your Excellency, we all know that AI depends very much on people and talent.
Indeed.
What's your perspective of large-scale national digital and AI skilling as being a center stage out of Vision 2030?
Again, Naeem, we have seen it firsthand. Double down on talent and technology with trust, you see results. And I have to give kudos to Microsoft. Back in 2018, we launched with Microsoft one of the largest coding initiatives and movements then. It was called Saudi Codes, powered by your coding platforms in Minecraft. And it pleases me to see today that we're releasing the next evolution in the intelligence age with reskilling of 3 million talent. But looking at that experience, at that time our tech force was around 150,000, just half of what the Silicon Valley has. Fast forward, that tipping point, and actually a turning point, moved into creating a movement of 406,000 tech force. Mind you, this is double what the region has with our neighbors. And if you superimpose it within Europe, we will be the 5th largest tech hub in Europe, just to give you as a data point. But those talent has been remarkable. And today it gives me great pleasure to call out the likes of Uniphonic, who are today part of your ecosystem developers, who have really leveraged Microsoft tools. And Yusuf Al-Hamdan Abu Yusuf have done a fantastic job in seeing how we can implement some of your tools and some of your co-pilots to be able to cut down the cost to pilot and to demo, and soon enough, once the Azure node is up and running, to scale to the whole world. But again, if you double down on talent first with technology and trust, fast forward, you're going to achieve a lot of economic results.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I could maybe just on that point, Naeem, add two other thoughts. One is just to give you a little bit of context about why we at Microsoft are so passionate about skilling, because it's really long been part of our DNA. If you go back to, say, Bill Gates' original vision of a computer on every desk and in every home, that was radical at the time. People were like, that's crazy. Nobody's going to want a computer in their home. And one of the things that Bill recognized was you couldn't bring PCs to people unless you skilled them. Starting actually with organizations, governments, enterprises, so there was a skilled IT staff. So when Microsoft started to grow internationally, one of the first things we did was invest in each country, where we opened a subsidiary in a skilling program. But the second thing that I think is really interesting, and you and I, in fact, you talked about it, someone we met yesterday, the truth is the countries for which this means the most are the countries that have the largest population that are young. And Saudi Arabia is obviously one of these countries. I actually think that the countries that have a higher percentage of young people are first and foremost in the best position to really lead the world on the way from, say, now to the end of the 21st century. But we also all recognize that with such a large population of young people, it's not, well, let's just wait and hope it all turns out well. Technology and skills will either enable people to build these better lives, or it won't. And in countries where it doesn't, if anything, everything will become more challenging. So this is just, I think, one of the most important national priorities, recognized as such here in this kingdom, and one that we should also, I think, want to see really take root and do well, I'll say, across Africa, the continent that has the highest number and the highest percentage of young people. And one of the many things that I think can happen in Saudi Arabia is success not only for the people of this nation, but a role model, if you will, that we and others can then use, just as we did with the skilling for PCs, and help other governments adopt and apply as well.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. And first, again, thanks for all the support to be able to launch the skilling initiative today. And we're seeing around the world, and as His Excellency said, countries that are going to invest in infrastructure and skilling will be the winning countries. Obviously, Saudi is very intentional about this, and we're proud to be and continue to be a partner in that strategy. Your Excellency, I want to move to another topic. As AI evolves, I think everyone is talking about responsible AI. Everyone is saying, how do we ensure that AI is being used for the good, not for the bad? What's your perspective, and of course the perspective from the kingdom, on how do you balance, and how the kingdom wants to balance, innovation and responsibility?
We're very proud that early on, His Royal Highness have seen it firsthand. When Saudi had the G20 presidency in 2020, it was for the first time the world adopted the OECD principles of trustworthy AI for the world, and that really have paved the way to accelerate today a $2 trillion economy, AI economy, fast forward to $16 trillion. As Brad have you said, this is a general purpose technology. You can't leave people behind when it comes to electricity or the steam engine back end. And hence, the kingdom is really committed to closing down the three divides. A compute divide, the world needs, and the latest numbers are creeping close to 90 gigawatts, and we're seeing the spend that Microsoft is doing and some of your peers in the industry. And hence, the kingdom is fully committed to responsibly, in terms of affordability and availability of reliable energy sources, to fuel the intelligence age and leave no one behind. Oxford released a report last year, which was astonishing and actually a bit scary, if I could say, where 90% of the AI zones around the world were concentrated in two nations. And the last time I checked, there's 192, 93 UN registered nations, and hence the kingdom, the level playing field is changing, where the kingdom is doubling down to leverage our capital, capacity, and compute to be able to energize the industrial age. Secondly, we have an algorithmic divide. You have shared it firsthand. It is completely not acceptable that you have as many Arabic-speaking folks around the world than English. And it's not acceptable that 80 to 90% of the training data sets are fueled by one specific data set. I mean, we love our English-speaking folks, and we have a lot of gratitude. A lot of my colleagues have been educated in the West. But again, we can't leave 400 million people, and we're very proud, and this is once again coming from Stanford, where they have called out the kingdom as the #1 nation in terms of AI readiness and adoption, but also recognizing Allam, our leading, most powerful Arabic LLM, that is today being adopted by companies like Adobe, where it's the default Arabic LLM for all of their products soon, and we're in discussions with Microsoft to make sure how we could infuse Allam. So we're doing our piece as well on the algorithmic. The last piece is on the data piece, and what people are confusing is that they want to decouple training from inference, and what we have realized that it's only when you have the two interacting together and have moved from a world of reinforced learning with human feedback, having people look at the data sets and do that fine-tuning, to reinforced learning with verifiable rewards such that you could see how the models are interacting, go back to the training phase, fine-tune them to work in i'timad, fine-tune them to work in our Justice Department and our healthcare to improve the accuracy and the precision such that Aramco can use it in a mission-critical environment like drilling. And hence, the kingdom is fully committed to address the three gaps: the compute, the algorithmic, and the data gap, and we look forward to collaborate with partners like Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. I think responsible AI, Your Excellency, is one of the huge priorities. Brad personally on them. And definitely, I think we can go with this journey with the kingdom for sure. Brad, Microsoft is a strategic partner for many governments around the world. From your and you personally have been championing many of those relationships. From your perspective, what does it take to build trust with government and countries in order to ensure we balance this trust with continuous innovation?
I think it probably takes three things. I mean, the first is you've got to be committed to learning about the countries you serve. You can't build trust and you can't serve people or nations well if you just come with your preconceived, I know what to do, and it's the same thing everywhere. Turns out that different nations have different needs, even if there are certain things in common. So I think step number one is this commitment to really learning and understanding and engaging. I think a second step, as people often say, is to think strategically. Well, what does that really mean? You can't just be transactional, and you can't just be tactical. You have to understand in a very broad-based way what the most important and most comprehensive steps are that will be needed for a country to succeed. That's why we spend so much time on something like skilling. We see it as so foundational. It's why we take our role in protecting cybersecurity, for example, as so important. It's why we really see our role with individual customers, say companies, for example, as understanding their strengths, their ambitions, their IP, and their IQ, and making sure that we're acting in their service. And I think the third is consistency. You have to keep showing up. You have to do what you say you're going to do. You have to be reliable. So it really is, understand what people are trying to do, take a broad-based strategic view, and constantly be there to support people.
Brad, thank you so much. Your Excellency, thank you so much again for the journey. Brad, you said we've been 30 years in the country very soon. And Your Excellency, as you said yesterday, we're hoping to stay here for centuries. the potential, the opportunities, the commitment that exists in this country. There's very few places they do exist, if they do. As a company, we want to be part of the journey, part of the impact of the country. Hopefully, we'll continue to be a critical part of Vision 2030, and I'm sure there'll be after that. This country continues to surprise the world on what it can do, and we want to continue part of that partnership. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.